Good morning. I know you guys have all been asking me, when's the food truck gonna open? Soon. Keep watching our wall and I will be posting opening day very, very shortly. We're almost there. We're gonna be heading over to my dad's today though. He's gonna be teaching us another homemade recipe in the kitchen, and it's one of my grandmother's recipes. And if you wanna learn how to make pastry properly, you're gonna wanna watch today's video. So let's head over to Dad. Hey Dad.
Hey Jess, how you doing?
Good.
We're going to start by making pastry. After that, we're going to do some cinnamon rolls, which I call roll-ups. So first of all, we're starting off with 1.5 pounds of pastry flour. The experts say that the lard's got to be cold. My experience, I'm no expert. I don't have any qualifications. This is just what we learned ourselves running our own bakery.
That's a qualification.
I like the lard to be at room temperature, and everybody says to break the lard up in golf ball sizes. I break it up even smaller. So I just break it up into little tiny pieces. And then as I go along, I just mix it up a little bit to get flour on it. Now you can see I got this lard. It's really nice and soft. And there's a reason for that, and we'll get to that later. Okay, so we need 1 teaspoon of salt. And we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So after we put the salt and the baking powder in, we're going to just dry mix it with my hand a little bit more to make sure that's all incorporated nice and evenly. Okay, add the dry mixture in the lard to the mixing bowl. When you're doing pastry, there's 2 utensils for your mixing bowl. One is the beater, and that's what we'll use with the pastry. You always use the beater. So we will put this in now. We got to add our liquid measure. So we need 1 egg, 2 teaspoons of vinegar, well, that was real accurate. Okay, so we got our vinegar, we got our egg, and now we add cold water from the tap up to a cup.
Okay.
Whisk that up good. Okay, that's ready. Look in the mixing bowl. You can see the chunks of lard that have been broken up into the flour. Well, when I turn that mixer on, I want that broken down even finer before I add the water mixture. And the reason why we put the lard in nice and soft is so that when you turn the mixer on, the lard incorporates and blends into the flour really fast. Because the one thing you don't want to do with pastry, you don't want it mixed too long. And when you're rolling it on the table, you don't want to overwork your pastry as well. So there's 2 things.
So it turns into cardboard.
That's right. So we will turn this on. That's about the perfect speed for it right there. So you just watch. until that lard starts to break down real small, a lot smaller than that. So now it's getting to the size of the small marble bits. I think that's ready. So when you pour your mixture in, just watch. And as it starts to grab together, you'll see that the dry is starting to lift off the bottom. It's done. That's it. Okay, we got our pastry out of the mixing bowl. And we're just going to add a little dry so we can put it in a ball.
A little bit of pastry flour. Sprinkle.
Don't use all-purpose flour to do this. You'll just make your pastry like a board. And that's that. Now, if you're not going to use it for a while, you can put it in the freezer. And whenever you're ready, just take it out, and you'll need a couple of hours for it to thaw out enough so you can roll it. But when you take it out, put it in a plastic Ziploc and throw it in the fridge, and when you're ready to use it, it's ready to go. We're going to make our sugar mixture for the cinnamon roll-ups. That requires 4 cups of brown sugar, 3, 4, and 2 cups of white. And really, you can use any measure you want, as long as it's 2 to 1. 1 white, 2 white. So everybody says, so how much cinnamon do you put in? Well, when we were up at the bakery, I just covered the white. When the white was fairly covered with cinnamon, that was good enough. There we go. Now by hand, mix this up real good. Get rid of all the hard chunks.
Oh, that smells really nice. It smells like Christmas. When Dad worked at the bakery, he always smelled like cinnamon. I think it was like right in his pores.
Well, they say it makes a man, well, you know.
Wah wah. Dad just preheated the oven to 375 degrees, and he's got his pastry out of the fridge, which has been chilling for about an hour.
So, we're gonna make cinnamon roll-ups. That's what we called it. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me down to play hockey in the Hamilton area around Parkdale and Craig Royston. When I was finished my game, I had to go down and stay with my grandma until Dad would come and pick me up from work. And she always had a great big plate of roll-ups on the table. When we went home, my mother would always say how my visit was with my grandmother, and I said it was all right. And my mom would say, what did she have for a snack? I says, oh, well, she had her roll-ups. My dad, of course, would say, nobody makes roll-ups like my mother does. The pastry's just so perfect. That's all my mom needed to hear. As soon as Dad left the room, she was right at that kitchen table, took out her pastry, and she was going at it. But anyways, I watched her as a kid. I watched my mom make the roll-ups, and she never taught me. I just kept watching her all the time. And when we started up our own bakery years and years and years later, I thought, you know, this makes me think of my mom, who's been gone now for 4 or 5 years, and I sadly miss her. And it just makes me feel good to make roll-ups once in a while to bring back the memory of my mom. So we'll start. So now that we got our pastry chilled out of the fridge, we're going to roll it into a kind of a rectangle. And that's about how long I want it. So I'll turn it this way. Remember, when you're using flour to roll this out, don't use all purpose. You just use pastry flour. The edges, of course, are going to be thicker, so you want to try to roll that out. A little bit more pastry flour. If you can see through it, you've gone too far. It's too thin. So we're just going to trim the excess, make it into a nice triangle.
Rectangle.
Or rectangle. Triangle. That's pretty good. Now, I took half a pound of butter and I melted it in the microwave. And we're going to put a nice coating of butter on this. You don't have to put too much. It's just so that it gives it a little bit of a buttery taste, and it helps the sugar stick to the pastry. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. So now you got your pastry buttered. You grab some of your sugar mixture and you spread it out. Now leave a little bit of a space along here. Don't put any sugar on there. And you'll see why in a minute. You put it on evenly if you put too much sugar on it. When it cooks in the oven, it'll melt and it'll seep out the bottom of the cookie, we'll call it. And then it burns the bottom. Just give it a pat down with your hand so you're sticking it to the pastry. So now that we got our sugar on our pastry, we're ready to roll. So I just like to get my knife and just kind of, in case it's stuck, so it's stuck a little bit here. This is tricky to get this started. And a lot of times why it's tricky is because the butter kind of seeps through your pastry and sticks to the table. So you just gotta be patient. Okay, we're almost got our pastry rolled to the other end. I give it another thin coat of butter so that when you roll it up, it sticks to the edge. And just roll it back and forth. Give it a little bit of pressure. Now, put a little bit of pastry down. We roll it back. Now, I like to have my seam on the bottom. Bring our tray with our baker's paper. The oven's preheated. I just like using a butcher knife. And I just go really fast, about 3/4 of an inch. Now, if you want your roll-ups kind of crispy, you can cut them thinner than that if you like. And if you cut them too thick, then you might end up with that problem with when the sugar melts, it seeps out the bottom and kind of burns the bottom. So that's why I'm about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, now that we've got our roll-ups on the sheet and our oven preheated, we're ready to go in the oven. So we're gonna run it at 375 for 20 minutes.